Hey there, welcome on back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And in this playthrough, I'm going to get into the first session from the campaign setting, Kingdoms of Kalamar. And if you do not know, this will be from the Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition. One of my more favorite editions, which is why I've had a itching to get into this and play one session through this for a while. So the characters are going to start out in a town called Segaleta, and this is in the campaign setting. The world is Tallinn, and we're going to do a very quick synopsis on the character backstory, so you'll know where this is coming in at. First things first, though, for my regular viewers, you already know, you probably already found this, but if you just stumbled upon this channel and you liked the content, let me know by hitting the like button. And if you are new here and you just found this channel, do not forget to click that subscribe button followed by the bell icon. When I do upload a video, you will get a notification letting you know. Okay, let's get into the synopsis of the backstory. The backstory is, first and foremost, the two characters that I am going to be focusing on. And I think many people know by now, when I start out my solo RPGs, I always start out with 2 characters till I get things moving, and then at that point I'll add a 3rd character, and sometimes all the way up to 4, just depending on what's comfortable to me and what feels fair and balanced to me, I will say. Always makes it quite enjoyable. But anyways, first things first, let's get into the characters in the synopsis. The first character, which will be represented by this miniature right here, his name is Eldris Redstone. He is a dwarf fighter. He is from the world Faerun, which, if you're not familiar with that, that is the Forgotten Realms campaign world. Him and a fellow companion of his were traveling through a dungeon. They were taken by surprise, an ambush, if you will, by a beholder and his cultist minions. He was captured and he was thrown through a portal, while his companion sorcerer was taken against her will, and the last thing he remembers is seeing her taken before the beholder. When he awoken, he noticed he was in no idea of where he was at. He was out in the middle of this grassy field. It was at night, but the one thing that he did notice that seemed odd to him was that the constellations seemed different than what he remembered from Faerun. He seen a settlement on the hill. He walked towards that way. He spent a day in this settlement and found it not to be so hospitable. People were hurling insults at him. They were giving him dirty looks, and they just would not interact with him at all. A day later, a human in a hooded cloak showed up to warm himself by the fire. He started a conversation with him, and that character's name is Drubin Silverdawn, which will be represented by this miniature right here. Drubin Silverdawn explained to him that he has never seen armor like his before, which piqued his interest, but he had explained to him the reason why people were hurling insults at him and treating him the way that they did was that they thought he was an escaped work camp worker that was enslaved and put there by the emperor, because this campaign setting takes place based off of our historical timelines in between the Bronze and Iron Ages. With all this political upheaval going on in these wars that are happening in the background, Drubin explains everything to him and explains to him that he's in the world of Telene. Well, Eldris gives him his story, tells him everything, and even though to Drubin this just sounds like fanciful tales, it isn't until Eldris hands him a couple of gold coins and asks him to be his guide and take him somewhere safe, get him out of this area till he can figure out how to find a way back home. When Drubin looks at the gold coins and notices the odd markings on them, it's at that point he's 100% convinced he's not from around here, and tells him that they're going to leave at first light, and his idea is to take him all the way into the mountains. Let's take a quick look at the map here so we're all on the same page. Take them for where they will be at here, up into these mountain ranges right here in the Ka'asa Mountains, and up there hopefully they can find a settlement of dwarves that will take him in, and maybe they'll have a knowledge of a way to get him either back home, or at least he'll be in the company of other dwarves to where he'll be far safer there than he will be in the outside world. Well, that's where this is going to start. Let's get over to the table. Just pour yourself a cup of whatever you're drinking, coffee, tea, beer, whatever it is, and let's get session 1 underway. All right, my friends, game on. Okay, so it's early morning. The sun hasn't even rose yet. Eldris Redstone is awoken, and as he opens his eyes, gathers his senses, Drubin Silverdawn is standing above him, telling him it's time to leave, we have to go. He quickly gathers his things, and as they walk away, leaving the warm confines of the fire behind them into the cool early morning dawn air, they venture out of the settlement and out into the wilderness. Okay, so first things first that I'm going to have to get figured out here. It is, in fact, very early morning. The sun has not risen. They have exited the settlement of Segaline, and they are now out into the wilderness area. They are in a clearing, which would be more or less like a plains area. They have not entered into any forested areas or anything like that. But I always settle everything with a set of percentile dice. I just want to see what the percentage is that they would run into an encounter at this early into the adventure. And that's going to be 12%. Okay. No encounter. So as they travel further away from the settlement and the sun begins to break above the horizon and lighting the landscape around them to where now at this point, let me get these character sheets out of here. I keep leaving them. As Eldris finally has gotten out of the settlement and he can now actually has, really the first time a glimpse to what's beyond Segaline and the world around him. Many things look extremely familiar to him. Obviously, the grass, the sky, the trees and everything, so on and so forth. But he still knows in the back of his mind, this isn't his world. This is a completely different world unknown to him. Now, each hex grid that is traveled in the game session will be 25 miles. And first things first, I'm going to roll D4. I want to see how many hours have passed. 2 hours have passed, so it is well past sun up. And currently, the characters, I'm going to have a really good idea as to where they currently are at this moment. I'm going to put the map out here. The destination point that we had left was right here, right on the edge of the Peliba Woods. And we are right there. Let's lay our overlay. And I'm going to put that right on the edge so I can see where we're at. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of different things here to answer a couple of different questions that I always like leaving this up to the characters. I always do. Rather than, I don't know, for me it makes gaming more interesting. Okay, so Drubin Silverdawn, he is leading the way. He has Intuit Direction. This is a skill he has. He gets a +5 to the roll. First and foremost, I'm going to roll a D10. And I just want to see where the difficulty class is going to come in for this DC. 3. So it's going to be a 13 for him. So he's going to have to roll a 13 or better to be able to have, well, obviously, a good idea as to where he's going without getting lost himself and wandering off in a completely different direction. So I get a +5 to the roll. That's a 6 +5. Well, it's going to be 12, 13. Well, that's not bad. I hit it right on the nose. So, okay, he knows obviously the direction he's going and where they want to head to. So now this answers my next question, because I don't have to worry about wandering off into a completely different hex out of the way. Does he lead them towards the forest, or does he continue on through the open plains area? Let's see. So let's answer that first one first with the forested area. That is 29%. It's pretty low. Let's see if he heads in towards the plains area. 79%. Okay, obviously we know where we're headed. He's going to stick to the plains area, and that's where we will be heading to. So, after several hours of travel after the sun has come up, and the town at this point is long gone behind them on the horizon, and they are out in complete wilderness. Next thing I have to ask my question of this, and this is going to be close enough. I make up all my random tables for this, and this one is encounters close to settlements. So first things first, let's roll a percentile dice to see if there is an encounter. 80%. Oh yeah. Let's see what kind of encounter it is. Maybe 26%. Ooh, bandits. Bandits are quite plentiful in these areas. So this ought to be pretty cut and dry. I just need to get a couple more models. Okay. I'm going to do something else here. I want to roll 2d6. I want to see how far away they are. 60 feet. All right. So that'd be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. So they're going to be coming in here. And I already have my stat blocks and everything pulled up for them in my notes. All right. Bada ba boom, bada ba boom. So, okay, so let me pull up these stats real quick. There we go. My bandits have an HP of 12, AC of 18, and an initiative of +1. That's what I really need to know, is what their initiative is. So I'm going to roll 1 die for the bandit side for initiative. Let's see what that's going to be. So they're going to have a 5 + 1, which their initiative will be running at a 6. Now I want to roll for my 2 characters. I want to see where their initiative is going to be coming in at. Eldris Redstone, he gets a +2. So he's going to be running at a 6. So he'll be acting the same time as they will. And then Drubin Silverdawn, he's got a 7. And his initiative is 3. So 10. So he will be the first one to act before any of them. All right. So Drubin Silverdawn. Well, he's from this world. He knows what to expect, but what he doesn't know is if these are part of the Royal Guard or they in fact are bandits. Man, what should I do here? I know the first thing I need to do is I need to get some counter dice out for HP. Keep track of that. So let's do that first. Get that out of the way while I think about what I want to do with him. I'm just trying to think if I want to go in for the kill right away, or I don't have a diplomacy skill, so the best I could hope for, he's only got a +1 to his charisma. I could try bullshitting my way through this. But if they inquire about Eldris, it could go the wrong way quickly. Man, oh man. Let me see here. Let me ask this question. I normally never do this, but I mean, this is a very, very unique situation here. I am going to go back to my oracles here, and I'm going to just ask the basic question. Does Eldris attack? Rolling a 7. No, he does not. He decides not to provoke the attack at this point. What he's going to do is he just speaks out of the side of his mouth and he tells Eldris, just keep your head down, act natural. Whatever you do, do not make eye contact. Okay, so they proceed to move. He proceeds to make his move first. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. They are going to move up, and they have a speed of 20, 5, 10, 15, 20 due to their armor. 5, 10, 15, 20. So they are approaching this way. And then, of course, I have Eldritch Redstone. And with his armor, let me take a look at his speed. His speed's been reduced to 15. So 5, 10, 15. Eldritch is just kind of tagging behind him right there. All right. Well, let's see with the reaction die how the guards are going to react. And we're going to roll another initiative round here to see who goes what. And yeah, actually, they're quite pleasant. Well, that's good. So, let's get the initiative underway. See who goes first. I'm going to roll for the bandits first. That's a 20. Holy shit. They get a 20 plus 1. I'm going to go for Goblin. He's got an 8. Which hit plus his modifier will give him an 11. And then, of course, I have Eldritch, which has got an 11, plus his 2, which will be a 13. Okay, so it's going to be pretty obvious. Bandits, Goblin, then Eldritch. Okay, the bandits move in. They actually are quite pleasant in fact, that they're being bandits. They ask Goblin, so what brings you by these ways? And hopefully you haven't met much trouble. But with that being said, you do understand you are passing through the Emperor's lands. And to pass through the Emperor's lands, that means the tax must be paid. He said, do you have any coin for the Emperor? Goblin nods at him and he says, of course, gentlemen, of course. And pulls out a gold coin and hands it over. The both of the bandits look at him and they side-eye one another and they nod in agreement like, yeah, okay. This point, Eldritch comes moving on up in 15 and joins into the conversation. I want to see, by rolling a percentile die, just curious here, if the conversation changes, if things change, or they remain the same. So let's see. 28%. No, they pretty much remained the same. The bandits seem pretty satisfied getting the gold coin that they got from them and not having to put up with an argument or anything like that. And then they're just more or less, they said, after some small talk, they said, well, gentlemen, the Emperor thanks you for the taxes. And they head on their way. Goblin, taking a sigh of relief, looks at Eldritch and tells him that was pretty close. It's went better than I expected. He says, I was figuring we were going to be involved into a bloodbath there, but he said, luckily, it looks as if fate's on our side. And I decided I want to change dice sets out here because these ice dice are pretty cool, but they're extremely hard to read. All right, let me get everything back in order. All right, so let's roll a d4 again, see how many hours have passed. So another hour has passed, and I want to see if we run into another encounter or not. 32%. Nope, we have not ran into any other encounters. Roll that d4 again. 2 more hours have passed, so that's going to be a total of 4, 5, 6, 7. 66%. Okay, that's pretty substantial. I would have to say we are no longer in close proximity to a settlement. As a matter of fact, we are out of ways. So what I'm going to do is flip over to my plains randomized tables here, and I want to see what kind of hideousness we find out here. %. Oh, what is that? Huh, a wandering NPC. Okay, well, this is pretty cool because I do have in my notes where I had marked that off. So first and foremost, I got an NPC die here. And let's roll up the unknowns to figure out who is what. Okay. A monk, which does exist in 3E. Let's see what kind of alignment. Lawful evil? Oh, this ought to be interesting. A lawful evil monk. But I need to go into page 69 of my towns tables because it has a pretty extensive NPC list, and I want to see how interesting is interesting. Even though it's a lawfully evil monk. 08. Ooh, Sherelle Sage. Has a large, frightening-looking birthmark covering a portion of his face that causes people to either openly stare at or take a quick glance and look away. Because of this, he generally wears a hat, and when out in public and works in jobs that don't involve dealing with customers. Well, he is a monk, so that would fit very well. Aside from the birthmark, he is, well, yeah, this is going to work. This is going to work. I got to change a few things up here because, okay. So I'm going to put a D6 out there to mark this monk. Or let me see, maybe I would have a mini I could put out there for a monk. This will work. Let's see. Roll 2d6. I want to see how many feet away this NPC is. 90 feet. Okay. So we're going to be back here. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90. Blammo. This will be in the plains. I'm going to say there's a couple of sparse trees, maybe one there, maybe one here. Okay. So I got a little bit more information. It's a monk. He's lawfully evil. He has a bizarre looking birthmark on his face. And I want to see what his ruling temperament is, basically how he's going to react with my characters. Fearful. That is okay. Okay, so I want to check something else and see if I can go a little further into Okay. Okay. That's interesting. That is very interesting. I want to see one thing on it. Okay. This is very interesting. All right. After several hours of travel and not seeing anybody else out here, and as the morning has grown into late afternoon, at that point, my characters catch a glimpse of somebody else traveling, and as they notice one another, and the distance begins to close in on them, he doesn't appear threatening at this point. And as the distance closes, they notice he has this weird looking mark on his face, and they can tell by the way that he is dressed that he appears like he belongs to a holy order, or particularly a devout religious follower. They just don't know what, because he doesn't have any discerning symbols or ornaments on display to tell them one way or the other. And unlike you may be thinking, like monk, like kung fu monk, oh, no, I'm talking about like a religious type of monk. As they get closer, and Drubin, nods and says, "Good travels, my friend." He seems almost skittish and hesitant to speak to them, but he clears his throat and he speaks back, and he says, "You by chance haven't passed anybody else along your travels, have you, out here?" Drubin and Eldris look at one another, shaking their head and looking back at him and saying, "No, you're the first person we've seen in hours." He says, "I'm afraid not." He said, "I have seemed to have lost one of my traveling companions, and I desperately seek to find him before nightfall." He said, "The wilds are a dangerous place out here, and it's no more dangerous than if you were alone by yourself." And Drubin shakes his head and he says, "Yes, agreed. He said, "But I haven't seen anybody." He said, "The best advice I can give you," he says, "it's about a good almost full day's travel," and he points back towards the direction of the settlement, Segerin, and says, "Is that way. But I don't think you'll make it there by nightfall. So that's the best advice that I can give you." I want to, even though I have already rolled on this table, and if you're wondering what table I'm talking about, this is a RPG reaction table right here, and then it breaks it down further for you. I want to roll on this, and I want to see if his attitude has changed, or if he just stays the course and goes about his way. So let me get 2d6 rolled. That's the first thing. He is an NPC stranger. Okay, 7. Bribable. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, So after Drubin explains this to him, and where Surgeon is and pointing in that direction, I got a better way of doing this. I just got a better way of doing this. I know how I want to do this. Let me see what the difficulty class is. A 19. Wow. Yeah, unless he rolls perfectly, I don't think he's going to make it. A 6. No, he doesn't. The monk sits and thinks about it for a moment, and putting his fingers on his chin and nodding his head in almost agreements. He's like, it's gotta be. It's just the only thing that makes sense to me. He says, well, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to make it there by nightfall. No doubt that's the direction he must have headed in. And he says, thank you, and safe travels, my friend. And is almost in a hurry, like he just really doesn't want to have any conversation with them at all. He scurries away, hastening his speed towards the direction that Drubin gave him. For a brief moment, Eldris and Drubin kind of look at one another like, okay, that was weird, but okay. And they continue along their travels. So far, this is starting out the way that I like them to. Slow, but not lethal. I've had a couple of game systems like that, and they just never seem to last too long. Okay, so let's roll that D4 again. Okay, it's been 4 hours. It's getting into early evening at this point. After 4 hours, more hours of travel, it's at that point, they have reached an area that seems like it's light wooded, but light enough wooded to where they can find areas to forage for food if they have to, possibly make a decent camp. But for the area they're in, would not be really considered a forest. All right. As they enter into this area, and they are looking around, surveying the area to see if this is going to make for a decent night for camp. Let me roll a percentage die and see if there is an encounter in here or not. 41%. No. Cool. I just have to go into the night phases for that. All right. So I do have wilderness lore, which I get a +5. I'm going to use that for Drubin. Drubin is going to look around and see if he can forage stuff that they can use that may be able to be used at a later time. And of course, if they can find suitable materials to make a decent campfire, because that's pretty important too. Oh, 3 + 5 isn't... Well, hold on. I haven't even set a difficulty class for myself. A 10. So that's going to be a 20. A 20 or better. And given the roll that I did prior, I would say, yeah, I'm not even going to bother. All right. So looking around, he finds nothing suitable for foraging or anything like that. It seems pretty barren, just straight up what you would find in a very light forested area. Woods, leaves, dead undergrowth, stuff like that. I'm going to roll the D10 again see if they can find suitable firewood for a campfire for the evening. That's going to be DC 13. He gets a +5 to that roll. That'll be a 16. Okay, so they find enough fallen brush and stuff to get a fire going, which will be more than suitable. We will mark that here. As they sit around the fire, I'm going to mark the rations off of my inventory sheet to reflect that. Okay, so they both consume a ration, and I'm going to say Drubin is going to be the first one to crash, and Eldris is going to have first watch. Plus, Eldris has dark vision of 60 feet, so this is going to be good for him because he's going to be able to see well beyond the area of the camp if anything's coming in, and he's not going to have to worry about suffering any penalties for if he didn't have dark vision, which is, you know, that's good. That's real good. But first things first, let's see how many hours have passed. Okay, 3 hours have passed into the shift. I'm going to roll my percentile dice, see if there in fact is an encounter. 21%. No, very uneventful. Okay. 4 more hours have passed. 37%. Nope. So his watch goes very uneventful. There's not much going on. They switch off, and it's Drubin's turn. And let's see how many hours have passed from his watch. Be an hour into it. That's going to be a 25%. Nope. Let's roll that again for a second. 3. So it'll be 4 hours into his watch. 24%. No. Wow. Surprised. Okay. So at that point, the camp is pretty much done for the evening. They have both cleared it, done what they have to do for the day to make all the arrangements that they have to for this day's travel. Now, this is something else I have to remember, because the hex I traveled, because it's 25 miles. So they traveled through the day, they had camped, and they had started on that hex in the morning. So I am going to roll the D4, and this is going to reflect how many hours of travel they've had before entering into the next hex, because it is the morning after all. 3 hours. Okay, so after 3 hours of travel, the other thing I want to check too is I want to see what the weather is like. I forgot to do that when we had left the settlement. Totally forgot about it. 11. Okay, so it's a rough travel go this morning. It is cloudy. It's cold. It's cloudy. It's not real. Mother Nature's not being very nice to them, I guess I should say. So after 3 hours of travel, they have now are coming up to the end of that hex. I have to roll 4 Drubin's Silver Dawn, and that's going to be his Intuit direction to see if he stays on the beaten path, or if I'm going to have to break the map out with the hex overlay and figure out where in the hell we're headed. Okay, so let's see what DC is for this. The DC is going to be a 14. I get a +5 to that roll for my skill in it. 19. Oh yeah, he knows where we're going. He's a ranger. He knows the way. All right. We have left, after 4 hours of travel, and one other thing I need to check before we leave this hex is I want to see if there's an encounter before we leave. 27%. No, there is not. So we have entered into a new hex. After an hour of travel into the new hex, and this is the morning time, I'm going to roll that percentage die again. I want to see 51%, marginal. Being that marginal, I'm going to go back to the Oracle and answer this question right here. And I'm going to ask, is this a location? An 8, what is that? 18. 18 comes up, yes. So we have stumbled upon a location in our travels. It's the second day into this. Now I gotta get to my tables. Random locations. Roll the 1d20. Oh boy. So on my table, right here, 17 through 20 is lose the way. Roll a 1d6. Ouch. Ouch, 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 ouch. Okay. So Drubin, looking at and surveying the area, pretty sure he's familiar with where he is going, and has maybe, well, not maybe, has confused a landmark and taken a wrong turn. So putting that overlay down, we had traveled to here and we had just entered into this area. Now, depending on how this goes, we could head up into the forest or we could head further out into this way. I just really don't know. But how I settle the hex is looking at the hex sides. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 sides to a hex. I got to figure out which hex side they are currently heading at this time. So let me roll a d6 and we are going to figure this one out. A 6. So we are currently here. So if I was to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we have gotten completely turned around. And we are currently heading back into the same direction into which we came from. Now, here's the bad thing. When you lose the direction, the way I have set this up, for solo play, to make this a little bit more interesting, I'm going to say, is you lose your way on that table. You travel 2 hexes before you get a chance to roll your intuit direction again. So chances are we're probably just going to walk right back to the saloon that we came from. Okay. Damn. All right. Well, nothing like backtracking for a while. So okay, after about an hour, unbeknownst to us, we walk right past our old camp, and let me see something. I want to see if we have any encounters when we go through there. 0.5%. No. Nope, 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 nope. Okay. Let's... Okay, 3 more hours have passed. 93%. Yeah, we have an encounter at this point. Okay, and I'm going to go on the plains. And just get to my table. Let's see what kind of encounter we have. We're going to have some excitement here. %, which are going to be goblins. So let me roll a 1d4, see how many goblins that's going to be, and pull the stats up for them. It's going to be a total of 3. All right. So, looking at the main core monster manual, this is going to be the creature into which we're going to be encountering. Now, okay. So, of course, this is going to go into Goblin Society. This is going to give us a brief explanation as to explaining to you if you don't know what a goblin is. I know what a goblin is. They're small humanoids that may consider little more than a nuisance. Yes, they are. But what we need to know is how many HP do they have? 4 HP. They got a +1 to their initiative. Their speed is 30. And I just dumped my whole entire dice box here. No problem. So, before I had dumped my dice tray all over the box, all over the... I cannot talk today. Before I dumped my dice tray all over the table, the goblins, they're pretty much a nuisance upon, I think, any D&D world in which you play in. If they're left unchecked, they just keep multiplying and doubling in numbers. And yeah, they just become a nuisance everywhere, which is, well, you don't feel too bad killing that many of them. But they got 4 hit dice, 4 hit points. I need to take a sip of coffee, man. That's what my problem is. There we go. They have 4 hit points. They got an initiative of +1. They have a speed of 30 feet. Their armor class is a 15, which is reflected +1 for the dexterity, and then +3 for their studded leather. Their attacks, they can have a Morning Star of a +1 for melee, or a Javelin that gives them a +3 ranged. Their damage is a 1d8 -1, or if they're using a Javelin, a 1d6 -1. Their reach is 5 feet by 5 feet, which means basically they can fight an adjacent opponent. Their saves, well, they got a Fortitude of +2, Reflex +1, Will of +0. And it goes, obviously, we're not going to get too far into the abilities. Their skills are Hide +6, Listen +3, Move Silently +4, and a Spot +3. This is what I want to concentrate on, and which I want to know more about right here. Good old 3E. Okay. So there are 3 goblins. Looking at these guys, this one obviously has a sword. This one appears to have what I'm going to call a sword. Of course, that's from out of the Hero Escape set of D&D booster they put out for that. And then, of course, this guy has what I would consider the javelin. So we got a mixed bag. Now, this is what I have to figure out at this point. Let's roll 2d6 and let's figure out how far apart my characters are from them. Okay, 50 feet, we'll say. So I'll say the characters are here like so. And we'll go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. They're going to be somewhere amongst in here. And let's just say for shits and giggles, we got a few sporadic trees. And what the hell? Let's add in a couple more. So, just a few sporadic trees to hide amongst. So first things first, let's roll that initiative. And I want to see who's going to go first. First for the goblin side. They got a 14, a 15. That will be how fast they are moving compared to my characters, which will be Drubin, which will be 13. And then, wow, Eldris Redstone, he's got a 20. So he will definitely be going first. So this is pretty good. Now, I want to see, because they get a +6 to hide. I'm going to say they're held up over here in this tree area. Well, this tree area, because they're 50 feet away, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So anywhere back in here. And we'll say as they're moving through this way, he's the first one that gets to act. He has the fastest, obviously, initiative of everybody. It's weird, dwarf, but he does. Let's see if he's able to spot them. That's going to be the next question. So he's going to get a wisdom. I'm going to use against my ability. He'll have a +1 to this roll. I want to see what the difficulty. Well, let me see. They are hiding. They do in fact have cover. We'll say, so to speak. So let's go to I have a DM screen here, and I want to see if this will help break up some of this. Cover, there we go. 1/4, a human standing behind a 3-foot high wall. Cover AC bonus of +2, cover reflect +1. Okay, 1/2, fighting from around a corner or a tree. Well, the tree seems to work, so we'll say +4. So I'm going to say a DC of 14. So he's going to have a 14 or better to be able to spot them right off the bat. Or, well, he's just going to move first, and the goblins are going to take their turn, and we'll see what happens. Okay, he rolled a 3 +1, 4. No, he is just completely oblivious, just whistling away. 5, 10, 15, we'll put him here. Followed by Drubin, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Actually, Drubin doesn't even get 5, 10, 15. We'll put him back there. Drubin hasn't even come into the equation at this point. Now the goblins are going to take their turn. Due to the cloudy conditions, which makes it very inducing to come out, because even though it's day, it's not full sunlight, so they probably move with a lot more ease through this environment. They do have a speed of 30, so we'll go with the first one. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So as they come rushing out from their hiding place, waiting for some poor schmuck to walk by, the first round of combat will begin. So let's see what the goblin gets first. He does get, for his attack, a +1 to the melee roll. So let's see here. Ooh-wee, 17. That'll take him up to an 18 on the AC. They do get a 1d8 -1, which will be 5. Ouch. I think I spoke too soon about being slaughtered. Okay, so Eldris is going to take 5 points of damage, which is going to put his HP down to a 9 from a 14. Caught off guard, the goblin comes scurrying in, and before Eldris can even react to what's going on, a morning star just boom, bam, lambasted him right across the chest, knocking the wind out of him and knocking him back. As a matter of fact, the wound that's substantial, I'm going to say he is knocked back 5 feet this way. All right, now it is Drubin's turn. Drubin, who can see what's happening but does not believe his eyes, he is going to, he's got 2 short swords. I'm going to say he has time to draw at least one of them and make his move. Well, it's his initiative. So, yeah, he's going to draw actually both of them and move into position. So, 5, 10, 15, 20, as he's drawing the swords and moving in to get ready for combat. That will be the end of his turn, and it's going to go back to the initiative. But well, I already resolved that. He was knocked back 5 feet. He just, Jesus. Okay, so first things first, let's go for the goblins. Okay, 9 + 1 puts them at a 10. So they are currently running at a 10 initiative. Let's see where the rest of my characters come in. Drubin, a 6 + 3 will be a 9. And then Eldris, a 13. Yes, he will definitely with a there it is, +2, which will be a 15. He will by far be the first one to act, then the goblins, then Drubin. Weird, just like last time. Let's hope it just doesn't go like last time. Okay, so Eldris Redstone, after getting the wind knocked out of him and just the how do I put this? His disdain and hate for goblins to begin with, and then the overwhelming amount of rage building within him, draws his battle axe and screams, "Ah!" and goes charging right in towards the goblin. Let's see how this goes. Okay, I get a base attack of +1, and my melee is a +3, so that's going to give me a +4. Their AC is a 15. Oh, it's going to be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, not enough. In his blind rage of stepping up, he just swings the battle axe. The the Goblin is able to, at that point, duck the attack and move out of the way of it, only to wind up to do another attack. But before they do, it's their turn. He's going to move in on him, and he moves in on him. So let's get this settled out and done. They do get a +1 to their attack, except for the one with the javelin. He's going to get a +3, but the problem is I'm going to say reduce that to a +1 because he's now adjacent. So we'll start with him first. He gets a +1, a 10, +1 is 11. No dice for the AC there. What about him? A 7 +1, no. The attack on Drubin, 13 +1 is a 14. And let me check his current AC. 15. No. Good. Very good. Okay. Now it goes to Drubin. With both swords drawn, and after watching this Goblin trying to take a cheap shot at him, he, at that point, retaliates with his. Ha ha ha. And of course, he does have the ambidexterity feat, which means he has no offhand penalty for this attack. Let's see how it goes. Okay, one scored an 11, the other one a 3. Drubin's base attack is a 1 and a +2, so it's going to give him overall +3 bonus for the first attack, which will take him to, you guessed it, a 15. So one sword, in fact, does strike, the other one misses. The short sword does 1d6 +2 damage. So that's going to be a total of 5 hit points of damage. They only have 4 hit points. So even though the Goblin was able to I don't want to say dodge, because he doesn't have dodge. He doesn't have that skill, but he was able to maneuver away from the first sword. Unfortunately, he wasn't so lucky for the second sword, as that came down and boom, just gave him an extremely grievous wound that ended his life. Down, gone off the board. Yes. Okay, back to the initiative phase. Let's see who goes first, who acts. We'll go with the Goblin side first. They got a 15 +1 is a 16. Damn, man. Suckers are moving quick, quick, quick. Okay, and first one is for Drubin. His initiative is a +3. That's going to give him an 8. Second one is Eldris, which is an 8, plus his 2, which will be a 10. So, once again, Goblins, Eldris, Drubin. Okay. Goblins first. Oh, boy. This, let me see. This Goblin, both of these guys are more or less ganging up on the Dwarf. The first attack, 4, no. Second attack, 12. A 12 +1 is a 13. Well, let me see. Eldris's AC is a 16. They call that no dice. So both attacks have missed. Now, Eldris, he just has his eyes fixed on that Goblin. That Goblin is going to freaking die. Now, with that being said, hopefully I can pull this off. Base attack a +1, and his melee is +3, which gives him overall +4 bonus for this roll. That's an 18. So that's going to bring it to 19, 20, 21, 22. Now, if I rolled a 20, that would be different. I'd be a critical, but I didn't. So it's not a critical, but it sure as hell is a hit. And his weapon does 1d8 plus 3 damage. Okay, 5 plus 3 is an 8. Yeah. So Eldris, with a score to settle, just screams out with his battle axe. And as he comes down, just cleaving right through the goblin. Boom. He is gone. He is done. Out of here. All right. So now it's up to Drubin. Drubin, quickly surveying the situation, seeing the 2 goblins slain and down, he makes his way, going 5, 10, and then moves in for the kill on the last goblin. A 6. That's pitiful. Even with my bonuses, it's going to get nowhere near 15, what they need for the AC number. Wait a minute. That was only one roll. Let's roll the other 20-sided. An 18. That one did hit. And let's roll that D6. And he gets a +2 for his melee damage. Total of 7. So as he steps in, the first sword, the goblin ducks. The second one, as he does not see it, coming down above his head in a stabbing motion, just cracked right through his chest. Ends this goblin right where he stands. All right. All of them defeated. Now, treasure found on him is standard. So going off the standard amount of treasure, normally the way I do this is, first of all, I roll to see what's the percentage that they have anything worth of value on them. 30%. Okay. So after searching the goblins, there's nothing really of substantial value found on them. Just junk to their eyes and putrid food items, stuff like that. So as it looks, they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But after this battle, after this little skirmish, let's see how many more hours have passed. 4 hours have passed. Is there any more encounters? No. Okay, on top of that, I'm going to do one more die roll. Okay, 4 more hours of travel have passed. It's beginning to get towards late afternoon. 11. No. So, to the ranger's eyes and his disbelief, as it gets closer and closer to very late afternoon, and the skies, the sun is beginning to get lower in the sky, the shadows are beginning to get longer. It's at that point, a sinking feeling wells up in his stomach as his eyes fall upon on the horizon of a familiar sight. That familiar sight being, well, you guessed it, the settlement that they have left. That settlement being, of course, right here by the forest, Sigaletta. And so I'm going to see how the dwarf, I'm going to roll this reaction die and see how the dwarf reacts to this. Oh, he is just angered. So as the dwarf, as they get closer to this, and he starts putting 2 and 2 together and looking around at this and remembering he came through the portal, he just growls, and looks over at Drubin, and he says, "Hey, what are you pulling here? I paid you coin to guide me away from this place, not take me out for a day out into the wilderness for a camping trip and then bring me right back." Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, I would have to say Drubin feels pretty, how do we put this? He feels very stupid at this point and chokes on his words, and he's like, "Well, yeah, I do travel these lands a lot, but I must have it's been a while since I've been through that area. We must have gotten turned around. Oh God." He goes, "Well, look at it this way. At least tonight, we can go in there. We'll keep our heads low. We know that they got fire piles going for the peasants. We can catch some warm fire, and then tomorrow morning we will head back out. And I promise you, we won't get lost again." All right. I think that's where I'm going to leave this session off, which overall, I have to admit, was not too bad. I mean, ran into a couple of bandits that were able to pay off that didn't end in bloodshed. One evil NPC. Hey, that NPC, that lawful evil monk that was looking for his friend. Let's answer this question. Did he ever make it back to Sigilletta? Yeah, 52%. So there is a possibility he did. Huh. As I'm going to say, they approach and enter into Sigilletta and get closer to one of the basically areas where they have the peasant fires, if you want to call them recognizing Drubin, they begin to scatter and move. Let me see. Is this lawful evil monk NPC there? Let's roll this. 31%. No. So there's a possibility he made it back to the settlement, but he's not there. So, okay, that answers that. All right, my friends, this is where I'm going to leave this video off currently for this play session. And for one of two reasons. A, was pretty eventful. I mean, the goblins were, a formidable encounter. It's been a while since I played 3E. I think the NPCs went pretty well. Like I said, the Royal Guards, we were able to pay them off without bloodshed, and they left us alone just collecting their money. And the other weird NPC that, chances are he could have made it back to the settlement. We don't 100% know, but we just know we don't currently see him. And then my next gaming session picking up on them having to start their journey all over again. And hopefully, instead of taking the path of traveling this hex here to go into this hex, to turn around to go back into this hex, to return back to where they started from. But here's the thing, even though they recognize where they are at, my next session where I start off, I'm still going to have to roll an intuit direction check, because technically the way that I wrote it, if he loses his way, it's supposed to be 2 hexes. But considering he came back the way he came from, they're going to run into that settlement again. So I think for this particular circumstance, this is the, best way I'm going to do it. But when he leaves the town the next time, I'm going to have to roll a 1d6 and see exactly which direction that he goes. And there is a good possibility that he could head up into the forest this time rather than sticking to the plains. All right, my friends, hopefully if you enjoy this, if you like RPG games and you're more interested in to learn how to play RPG games solo, I have quite a few videos on that you can check out, and you can learn a lot more. These are my playthroughs, and some people enjoy playthrough videos, while others enjoy the videos where I talk about tips. I got tutorials and other things that they enjoy for themselves. But with that being said, my friends, this is Artichoke Dip signing off.